September 25th, the new Fox Tuesday kicks off with New Girl's new season. Then welcome Ben and Kate.
Stay away from my sister before you find out what 6 years of Krav Maga feels like. Well, like year and a half plus like 4 years on and off I was traveling.
Followed by another all-new New Girl.
What am I looking at here? Pure, unadulterated friendship.
And the Mindy Project.
Can't believe you're tattling.
Tattling is when a little girl does it, okay? When a hot woman does it, it's called whistleblowing.
The new Fox Tuesday, premieres September 25th on Fox.
You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The New Normal After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The New Normal After Show.
Yay! We're here. What's up, guys? Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another recap of The New Normal for all of you here at AfterBuzz TV. This is episode 4. Season 1, Obama Mama is the title of the episode. It was a good one. I am your host, Lauren Leonelli.
And I'm Kristyn Burtt, and we have a couple empty chairs next to us. What happened?
We have an invisible AJ.
An invisible Anna.
And an invisible Anna. They will be back next week, but pour some of your drink out for them tonight, folks.
But we do miss them, and we look forward to seeing you again.
They will be back. All right, so tonight I was kind of shocked at this episode. First of all, I thought it was good. I thought it was funny, but I was really surprised to see such a controversial, like, liberal-sided show really being outspoken about the conservative side of, like, the political point of views and the election and all of that. They were really putting up a good argument for the other side. It didn't feel at all to me like it was the liberal point of view just overshadowing the conservative point of view that was just like, oh, who cares about that? It was, I mean, Jane, Ellen Barkin's character, was really representing the Republican side and Republican point of view and the Republican voters, and she was putting up a good fight.
Which I think is important because, you know, we are in an election year, no kidding. And it's one of those things that it's been really hard over, I think, the last, I'm going to say, 12 years where, you know, Republicans are over in this corner and the Democrats are over in this corner, and the two shall not meet in the middle.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's important to understand, and I really do feel this in politics because I follow somewhere straight in the middle of the two parties, but I really feel like it's important to understand both sides and have an understanding, because we're always calling people out on the other side saying you're doing this wrong or you're believing wrong or you're thinking wrong, but no one's really trying to understand what the other one's trying to say. And so I think this episode brought up some good points about that.
And I think that this is another good example of, you know, Ryan Murphy and the creators of the show just trying to show that everybody's entitled to their point of view. I mean, the show, it might be about, you know, gay rights, and it might fall on the more liberal point of view, but I think they're just trying to say everyone's entitled to our opinion. Our opinion happens to be that we think that gay people should be able to get married and adopt and have children. So why don't you listen to just what we have to say? It's not about maybe agreeing or disagreeing, but just let us have our opinion. This episode kind of encompassed that, like, the Republican conservatives' point of view is your own point of view. And you wouldn't think that this show would be sort of advocating that, but they did. It wasn't like they weren't putting it down. They were bringing up very valid arguments. Mm-hmm. Ellen Barkin's character, as crazy as she can be when she's Jane, Nana, and says the most outlandish stuff, she actually, I mean, I was surprised at some of the stuff that she was, points of view that she was actually bringing up. Just like, what was the part where she burst into the, they were making dinner, the boys, Bryan and David were making dinner. Mm-hmm. She burst into the room. She was very upset about hearing that the boys were trying to sway Goldie's vote, that she was going to be voting for Romney, and she was like, I worked really hard to to train her mind to vote, and now you guys are coming in and messing it up.
She said they had been Republican since Abraham Lincoln. And I think that the funny thing about that, if you go back, if anyone's an American history buff, if you go back to what Republicanism was back in Abraham Lincoln, it's very different than the party now.
Different, and I think that I'm familiar with that as well. And Abraham Lincoln, if you were to put him in on a side, he would have fallen more democratic now.
Absolutely, especially on social issues and things like that.
Yeah.
And even if you go back, and not that far in American history, you go back to all of the Reagan Republicans, I think Ronald Reagan would kind of be shocked to see what his party has turned out to be. It's just turned out to be something different than the fundamentals, which really is about fiscal conservatism.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's turned into a lot of religion falling into politics, but remember, our country's founded on a separation of church and state.
Yeah.
Which is my whole problem with politics in general these days. I'm like, they all need to be separated, and everyone needs to find a common ground. So
I agree. I think it's all kind of crazy how separate everyone needs to be in. It's not as black and white as people make it out to be, but then that's when politics comes into play, and it's a little weird for me because it's like, even on the side that I fall on, you know, Democrats seem sometimes to say things just to get a vote, and it makes it feel really black and white when there's a lot of gray issues, and there's some areas where I fall in the middle, and I think that the new normal is kind of trying to reflect that and show that there are people that can fall in the middle, or there are people that might be what you think might be a stereotypical liberal or conservative, and it's not necessarily true, because some of the characters we were discovering on the show are not voting conservatively when you would think, because he's a gay man, that he should be voting liberally. And I think that's, again,
or a black Republican.
I think that, again, Ryan Murphy and the creators of the show are trying to show that you don't need to, and I know we'll kind of get into this too with talking about stereotypes a little bit later, but the stereotype doesn't need to just be, again, so black and white.
Absolutely.
Like, everybody is entitled to an opinion, and their opinions can surprise you sometimes.
And I think the important thing is about respecting others' opinions, because I think we've gotten to a point in this country, and I think the show, in this episode in particular, focused in on this, that, you know, we need to listen to the other side, but we need to respect them. You can have a healthy debate, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a healthy debate about politics on both sides, but it's when you start saying, you're racist, you're a hater, you're this, you're that, you're not God-loving, you know, that's when, on both sides, when everyone starts slinging, you know, insults, insults at each other, I sit there and think, well, all it does is it doesn't validate your argument at all. It makes you look immature and ridiculous.
I was going to say, it looks like a schoolyard fight between immature children, and it's ridiculous. And, you know, I think that you're allowed to vote on one side or err on one side, but agree with some things on the other. And I think, you know, I liked the part in the show where, like we were just talking about, where Jane bursts in and they're cutting the vegetables, and she's talking about not wanting the two guys to have any reflection on her granddaughter's point of view and her voting for Romney. And Jane says, well, you know, I don't have a problem with, why do you have a problem with Romney? He's making it so that people are free to make their own decisions. And Bryan stepped in and said, yeah, except for if you're gay. And she said, oh, but I didn't think gay was a choice.
Which was such a great one-liner.
And you would think, for a show about two gay men trying to find equality and fit in this world like every other couple, that you wouldn't bring up that argument, which is why I am loving the show even more right now, because I like that they're not afraid to bring up the other side. And yeah, that might have been construed into something it wasn't, because I don't believe being gay is a choice, and that was just her coming back and being snarky. But I think it's a valid argument that the others, like the conservative side or the Republican point of view, might point out.
Absolutely. And you know, and that's when you start getting into, and again, this is where religion sometimes falls into place, where it happens that, you know, sometimes religion doesn't believe in certain aspects of science, and that's also oftentimes where they think gay is being a choice versus science, which says you're born this way, like Lady Gaga says. So it's really kind of interesting, like how it's all playing out and how it's being written, because again, it is showing both sides of the coin, which is great.
And so the hypocrisy. I think hypocrisy might have been like the theme of this episode because it kind of like reared its head in a bunch of different topics, like we just talked about the voting and conservative versus liberal, and there was also they touched a little bit on like food issues, and they were really kind of bringing up the point of like eating organically or eating fast food. And you know what's interesting is I have heard a little bit about this before, but I want to bring this back. In the very first scene when Goldie's like stuffing down a burger because it's breakfast, and she's like, this is a one-time thing, Shania, and she just like, I'm having a craving. And as she's doing that, Bryan and David walk in with organic vegetables from the farmer's market
for them.
Just
hooray.
It was
and
really,
baby.
And it was funny. And David, who's a doctor, said, charboiled meat is a carcinogen, and that actually affects your DNA, which is so funny because like 2 nights ago I burned toast and I was like, this is bad for me, right? Like if I eat this is bad. And I was like, well, I'm not going to throw it away. And I just put a whole bunch of peanut butter on it, and it was fine. But that is true, though, right? Like
I know, like grilling, oftentimes you can create a lot of carcinogens from grilling meat and things like that. I don't know about burnt toast. I don't want to start rumors.
I don't want to start rumors either, but it was like really
Marissa,
burnt.
do you know?
Marissa's shaking her head. I'm just saying, I'm making myself sound ignorant right now. I'm just saying, I thought about that it was so funny that I thought about that because I've heard people say really burnt food can do that. Now, I didn't know that it affects your DNA. I just want to say, if anybody knows how that affects your DNA, call in.
All the scientists call
in. That is crazy. It affects your DNA? Like, that is crazy.
Well, I would think, cancer especially is, cells mutating and things like that. So that would somehow affect your genetic makeup. So
my God.
There you go. I know, but there's so many things to think about in terms of all of that, and it's interesting because here in California, and I think we talked a little bit about this, we've got a bill about genetically modified foods in California, whether they're going to be labeled or not. So I'm wondering if that's going to start filtering in, where we're talking about organic versus fast food and things like that.
And there's a whole bunch of documentaries about the way food is brought to you into the grocery store and where it comes from and how it affects you.
Yeah,
and
Food Inc. is enough to send you over the edge. That's a great documentary.
Oh gosh. So, but yeah, it's sort of hypocrisy sort of came in there with trying to figure out, what they really believed in. And the couple was divided because David, being the doctor, is very, very into eating healthy, and we see Bryan sort of sneaking burgers and giving them to the dog, and then eating that at the end of the episode was eating fries.
Absolutely.
With Shania. So, again, they are two very different people, as we've talked about before. So this is another way for them to show their different beliefs.
And it shows the simplicity of hypocrisy, I think. Because we all say, oh, I eat so healthy and I eat organic and I just go to the farmer's market. And especially out in California, on the West Coast in general, you hear this all the time.
Yeah.
And of course, I still go to In-N-Out Burger. You know, I mean, I shop at the farmer's market, but it is, we do, again, the theme is, walk the walk, talk the talk.
Exactly.
Talk the talk, walk the walk.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing for me, too. Like, I try and eat the best I can, but I also am not a millionaire, so shopping at Whole Foods is sometimes not an option for me.
Whole paycheck, they call it.
Exactly. I mean, I can buy organic as much as I can, but you know what I mean? It's like, late night out at the bar, Fat Burger looks pretty good. By the way, they were at Fat Burger this episode. Both of us were like, that's
Sherman
Fat
Oaks?
Burger.
Sherman Studio City?
Hollywood. I think it was the Hollywood Fat Burger on Santa Monica Boulevard, because I've been there a couple times. And those charbroiled burgers go down real smooth, let me tell you.
There you go.
Carcinogen or not. So the hypocrisy was all over this episode, in the politics, their beliefs. Also, I thought it was kind of interesting too, and this is sort of obviously a political issue as well, but a personal issue for some of the characters on the show, like Goldie, and they brought up abortion. And I thought it was interesting that, again, Jane always gives up some really personal information about the characters. And this one, they decided in the show, they had a party. The boys, Bryan and David, had a party because they wanted to prove to Jane that they had black friends. She was trying to call them out on talking the talk and walking the walk, and saying that they're so conservative and liberal, and they're so liberal, and they're Democrats and, oh, I'm sure you guys, there's so much that you're hypocritical about and you probably don't even have any black friends. And they said, yes, we do. We have lots of them. And then when she left, they're like, we don't have any. Who are we going to invite? So they tried to scramble and throw a party just to prove to her that they had black friends. They ended up tricking, or Bryan ended up convincing a waiter to audition for a role, which I have to interject, we found out more about Bryan's character this episode as well, that he is he's a producer of some
TV producer, and it looks like it said sing on the chair, so I'm thinking it's maybe an American Idol type of format. Maybe he's a Simon Cowell,
maybe a judge or something.
Yeah,
but they were definitely on a set, and it's definitely Hollywood. So he convinced this actor caterer, which we all know is very common in these parts, to audition for a role. This actor happened to be black, so he wanted him to pretend to be their friend.
And they made him what they called the Black Frasier. So if you ever watch Frasier from Cheers,
pretty funny.
Very snobby, like super ridiculously educated, like
what Jane would not think of as a typical black person.
Correct.
So there we are playing with that dichotomy there. And so they decide at this party, they're also going to now say, okay, well, you know what? We're almost 12 weeks along. Let's announce our pregnancy. Let's take this opportunity. All of our friends are in front of us. So they do so. And this is right after Goldie's character was just asked out by Clint, who is Rocky's brother. And he's like, hey, I want to go to the movies. She's like, sure. And then Bryan and David come in and are like, we're pregnant. Oh, and Goldie's our surrogate. And he was like, what? Clint was like so taken back. So we saw Goldie go through some personal issues here. But then the abortion issue came up because then Jane said, oh, let's go get Shania. That's also Goldie's daughter from her falling apart marriage. Goldie leaves the room and gets upset, but I think a little bit before that they were talking politics at the table, and Jane was fighting for the Republican side and everyone else was Democratic, so it was like everyone against her. And she had brought up the fact that if she hadn't taken away Goldie's mother's right to choose, then Goldie wouldn't be here and they wouldn't be having a conversation about what they're having the conversation about.
Which I think, brings up an interesting point, getting back to politics, because, I mean, I think every 4-year cycle we sit there and argue about, Roe versus Wade and everything else and the woman's right to choose. But I always think this, it's so interesting because one side is so clearly over here and, right to choose, the other one's right to life. But if you meet in the middle and someone maybe has the baby and gives it up for adoption is a wonderful option. And then, if it's someone that's under 18, they can still go to college and they can still have a life, and then a family gets to adopt a child. But it lends itself to so many interesting things in terms of the two sides have their view. Adoption is a big issue in the gay community because some states like Florida don't allow you to adopt a child, so if you're a gay couple. Right. So it's really interesting how all these layers of politics are playing into a storyline. But collectively, the interesting plot point in that story was, Nana, Bryan, and David all ruined Goldie's date in one fell swoop.
Oh yeah, they all, I mean, this was another way to kind of show that Goldie, although she might not be having the baby for her, it's definitely going to affect her life. She has a young daughter that's going to be affected by it. And you know what? She's totally like, yeah, I totally want to go on that date. It's almost like she forgot that she was pregnant for that second. Yep. She's not showing yet. It's all very new. He asked her on a date and she's like, sure. Not even thinking I'm about to have a baby because she's not married, which would be the typical situation that you would be, pregnant in. And she's not, and she's just like, yeah, she was young, she's 24, she wants to have fun.
Yeah, and she's ready to go out and party, but wait a minute, she's 10 weeks pregnant.
Yeah, and then Nana is hitting below the belt.
She always
right
is hitting
and left.
Below the belt.
And she's like, well, Goldie's mom wanted to have an abortion, and if I hadn't told her no, then Goldie wouldn't be here. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, Goldie, I'm so sorry. And she's like, oh no, that's fine. She tells me every year on my birthday. So it's like,
well, I think the nice thing is that Ryan Murphy has brought up some interesting topics of conversation in terms of women's right to choose. And, they've had, she has a wonderful granddaughter because of it. And, you think she's got a worthy life and a great-granddaughter out of it, too, even though Nana loves to deliver things in an interesting manner.
In a very interesting manner. And I think that that's kind of Ryan Murphy's way of throwing something really heavy out there and then letting that sit for a second and then making light of it.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's a comedy and we can't be so down. But there were some really heavy issues tonight, and it still was, I think, able to remain really funny and light feeling.
Absolutely.
And that issue was, I mean, that's kind of a big bomb to drop. Like, your mom wanted to get rid of you, and I told her no, and she's like, oh, it's fine. She tells me that story every year on my birthday.
Like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't we love to hear from everyone on iTunes?
Yes, we would.
Yes.
We would love to hear all of you rate and comment, and we love, love, love when you go to iTunes and keeps the lights on here for us. We love hearing what you have to say, and we appreciate you visiting and rating and commenting. So please, please
And what you think of all the controversial topics.
And
I love that.
what you think of all of our controversial topics.
And we were one of the top 5 last week, so we appreciate that.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys.
Whoop, whoop, holla. All right, so there is also the issue that we talked about in the beginning, right at the season premiere, with the 1 million moms versus the LGBTQT side
community, yeah.
And this is not an issue that's really going away.
It's not, and I'm really surprised about it for a couple of reasons. I mean, the 1 million moms are really pushing forward to get some of the advertisers to back off from advertising on the new normal. Now, the only repeat advertiser that has been on the new normal from week to week, and I think it's only been 2 weeks in a row, has been Arby's. But according to NBC, not a single advertiser has asked to withdraw from their paid slot, so they're totally fine with the new normal. They're totally fine with the content. They're totally fine with their brand being associated with that. So the 1 million moms have not been very successful with that campaign,
nonetheless.
But they're trying. After the whole we had the whole debate with the broadcast channels in Utah. One dropped it and one picked it up, so that's been a wash for them as well.
Right.
However, on the other side, lesbian gay community, a lot of them are backing off from the show. Because of some of the strong gay stereotypes that are being thrown out there. And, AJ's talked a little bit about this. We discussed it last week, and I did feel the same as AJ, that sometimes there's some really bad old school stereotypes that are being thrown out there. Some because of Nana, and I think that's sort of being, part of her character, and they're developing that. But sometimes I think they're developing the gay couple, Bryan and David, in a weird stereotype that we don't necessarily need these days, if they're trying to change minds or open people's minds to what a family is.
Do you think that some of the harsh things that, like we were talking about, you and AJ were agreeing before, that hitting you over the head with some of the stereotypes, do you think that's to point out that it's ridiculous to think that way? Or to show that, I mean, you're allowed to think what you want, but to show the side that some people believe that it's ridiculous to think that way?
I mean, I think you need to show all sides of it. I think
because some of the things Nana says, there's people on the opposite side, on the right side, that think, yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, there's people that probably agree with some of the crazy cray stuff she says, and then there's some of the other people on the left side that look at her and say, what the hell is she saying? Like, that's crazy that she would think that. So I think maybe it's put out there in an outlandish way to show the division, and some people are going to agree with it and some people are not. But for the people who don't agree with it, I think it's to show maybe there are people that do think this way.
And I think what it is, too, that's kind of interesting, we're only really hearing about the gay lesbian issue. You've got the 1 million moms sort of arguing that, and then you have the lesbian and gay community pushing back, saying, we don't like some of these stereotypes being put out there, but we're not hearing from, maybe the Christian right or Republicans saying, hey, we don't like how we're being portrayed, or we don't like these stereotypes. So I think that's why we're just, hearing from two particular sides, but I also think that there's a third side to all of this.
Well, I think this episode was kind of a good example of the Republican point of view, the conservative point of view, the right point of view, coming through in a not negative way. It's just in a very valid, normal, hey, this is our point of view, and bringing up really good points. And I think I do agree that there are some, I can see why the lesbian and gay community might be a little put off by some of the stereotypes that are really being pushed on the show. But I'm going to throw this out there. I don't know that a lot of America is ready for this show to happen without the stereotypes being laid out there like that for you. I don't know that people are ready to just accept this couple as this couple and not attach it to stereotypes that I think that the show, I am assuming, or my guess is that they're trying to work to break those stereotypes down.
Yeah, and I mean, Ryan Murphy hits you over harder on the head with these messages and these themes and these stereotypes. But if you look at Modern Family, which is like, oh, it's like the #1 comedy in the United States, and it just won the Emmy again, and they soften the couple's relationship. You know, they don't do, it took them a long time to kiss. It took them 2 seasons for that couple to kiss on ABC. So it's interesting to see how the two are playing out. Now Modern Family is extremely popular, where New Normal has had some soft ratings, actually, and the ratings have gone down from week to week.
And we will talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see, is America reacting because they're hitting us too hard over the head, or is it just that the show isn't written the way people in general just want to see a sitcom?
I wonder that myself. I don't know, but I still fall on the side of, I think that this is a stepping stone to get to the point where we can watch a show and it's not about a couple being gay. If they're 2 men, 2 women, a man and a woman, whatever they are, black and white, Asian, who cares, yellow, purple, whatever. It's just about a relationship, and I think, unfortunately, people aren't ready for that. There's a lot of people that are, but I don't think a lot of people are just ready for that couple to just happen without an explanation and without everyone freaking out and talking about it. So I think that this is a stepping stone, and I think maybe it might have to take a couple hits. I think, you know, Ryan Murphy is clearly on the side of accepting this and thinks it's normal for him and it's normal for people like you and I, which we've discussed, but I don't know that other people are ready for it, and I think that maybe that they feel like they have to give you those stereotypes in order to put it out there and show it to everyone, and maybe get people who are on the other side to look at it and go, okay, well, now I understand. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the reason why people don't get it is because just of sheer ignorance, in my opinion, or maybe it's religious belief, but some people aren't exposed to it enough to even know about it.
Correct. Or they think they don't know someone who's gay and they actually are gay, but it depends on what type of community you live in, and because we talk about this LA bubble all the time, or if you live on the East Coast, in the Northeast, it's really not a big deal, but other parts of the country, it's a little scary perhaps because they don't understand it as much.
Well, I'm hoping the show can open the door to all.
Yes,
we love it here.
We do, and there's a lot of comedies on air this season. It's kind of exciting.
I know, right?
We've been talking about NBC's comedy, but Fox has a brand new lineup that actually premiered tonight. Starting off with, Zooey Deschanel was back with a brand new season of New Girl. She's laid off and looking for work, so hopefully you guys caught that. And then following that, from the producers of New Girl, there's a new show which I finally watched tonight, Ben and Kate, a really cute new comedy. So I think it's being called one of the best of the new season, so be sure to check that one out.
It's very good.
And then probably my favorite, because Mindy Kaling, you know what, one of my favorite sub characters on The Office is now on Fox in her very own project called the Mindy Kaling Project, and she's exec producing, she's writing, she's starring, so I'm all for girl power on that.
She's awesome.
Yeah, so be sure to check that out. If you missed it tonight, I'm sure you can always check it out online, or go next week and make sure it's on your DVR, because Fox has a strong new comedy lineup on Tuesday nights.
And they started tonight at 8 p.m. and tune in every Tuesday and watch it after. They're all so good. All the shows are so good.
My DVR this season, which I'm kind of pleased that it's busting at the seams.
Me too.
Last year, I picked up 0 shows. I didn't like anything new.
I had my
old
same
stuff.
way. Old stuff, and now this time,
just
too many to choose from.
Gosh, I have so much going on.
Love it. All right, well, let's get into some quick news and gossip.
TV News.
All right, we kind of touched on this. The ratings are slipping a little for the new normal, and NBC has got, some pretty strong shows. Like The Voice is a big, it's got a built-in audience. They're doing really well with the ratings, and Go On is another show that's doing really well. But the new normal and Go On are both in their third well, tonight was their 4th episode, but at the time they were in their 3rd episodes when this little report came out on Entertainment Weekly. And the new normal, it fell 12% from the 2nd episode to the 3rd. And what they're really concerned about is, yes, there's a difference between the ratings on The Voice and Go On, but it's much more drastic in between the percentage of who's watching Go On and the new normal. And they're hoping over at NBC that Ryan Murphy's got that magic touch that he seems to have, and that it's just going to end up being, you know, a Glee or something that ends up getting, you know, continuing to go strong. But
I'm a little worried about the show, I have to be honest, because a lot of people I've talked to have said, I watched the first couple episodes, and they've dropped it from their DVR. And, you know, when you've got Matthew Perry, who's got a long history with NBC, Friends, you know, he's a strong lead-in. If you're dropping off of that,
it's tough, I think, and with the controversial message that comes through the show, again, it's very, you either like it or you don't.
And Fox has a strong lineup.
And they do. So we're hoping that Ryan Murphy's magic touch comes into play here. Also, there is an upcoming Halloween episode, and it is a Honey Boo Boo themed episode. So for all of you that like Honey Boo Boo, then you might want to turn into this. It is, isn't that how
I'm
awesome?
Excited.
How awesome!
Watch that.
First of all,
Honey Boo Boo.
Shania Twain. Shania, the little girl. Shania Twain is gonna.
You can't say Shania without thinking Twain.
What is that?
Shania. We all watched her do her very good impersonation of Little Edie from Grey Gardens, and Ryan Murphy he said, you know what, she is such an, I'm quoting him, eccentric, exotic child. They felt like they couldn't not have her doing that Little Edie. So now they're also like, why, we can't ignore the Honey Boo Boo trend. Like, we have to do this. So in the show, what's going to happen is Brian's character is going to say, you know, Shania's character really likes Honey Boo Boo. Why don't we all dress up as the whole family? So they're all going to dress up as the whole family. I'm assuming Shania is going to actually be Alana Thompson, a.k.a. Honey Boo Boo.
That's must-see TV.
How good is this going to be? And by the way, I'm just predicting, before predictions, that Honey Boo Boo is going to be a crazy trend in Halloween costumes this year. Because I'm thinking I was going to either be Little Edie, or now I kind of wanted to be Honey Boo Boo.
We're going to see a lot of Honey Boo Boo this year.
I think I might be Honey Boo Boo. Yes. And also, there was one little other small note. Nene Leakes is in Vogue Fashion this week. And the picture that I saw, I didn't see any of the other ones. I saw this on BET.com. So if you want to take a look at the picture, go on that. But it was a picture of her. She looked she was in a gosh, what was the dress? It was this like black and white Stella McCartney dress.
Ooh,
and she was wearing Giuseppe Zanotti shoes. She looked amazing, and the whole cast was with her, and it was such an awesome picture. Vogue always has like the best pictures.
Do you know that I heard Nene Leakes brings her own shoe wardrobe to every shoot, including the new normal? She doesn't wear the wardrobe shoes.
I don't doubt that. Yeah. And they're always fab. So if you want to check that out, go to BET.com and you can see the picture that I'm talking about. But this is going to be in the October edition of Vogue. So
and she's on the next season of Atlanta Housewives, so she is double dipping with her paycheck.
Not only is she rocked the reality TV world, now she's on the regular sitcom TV world and in Vogue. Go Nene.
Nice work.
All right. So that's it for news and gossip. Do we want to get into predictions?
Predictions. I mean,
your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Well, I am going to piggyback on my prediction that I just said, and I think that the Alana Thompson Honey Boo Boo trend is going to be a huge Halloween costume this year, and I'm going to predict. Now, we could be surprised because somebody else on the show could be Honey Boo Boo, but I'm thinking that they're going to have Shania be Honey Boo Boo. But it would be kind of funny if they made like Nana be Honey Boo Boo or something.
That'd be great.
Right?
Nana be Honey Boo Boo. Well, we've got the whole Ohio storyline coming back because she's being sued for custody, so we have to think about what's going to happen. She is required by the courts to bring Shania back to Ohio.
Goldie. So that's how the episode ended. We found that Goldie was upset. She's being sued for custody by her soon-to-be ex-husband, and she has to go back to Ohio. So what do we predict on that? I remember thinking that, are they going to take Shania's character off the show for a little bit?
I don't think they'll take her off the show because she plays in too much of into the comedy and all the craziness.
And she's so fab.
She's fantastic. But I do think that we're going to see a little bit of Ohio and a little bit of struggle with the whole court custody case.
Great prediction. All right, guys, thank you so much. Next week, we will be back with all of us, Anna and AJ included. And you can find me at Lauren Leonelli on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and my website.
And I'm at Kristyn Burtt, and I'll be here tomorrow night for Dancing with the Stars, beginning at 7 p.m. Pacific time, so come on back and join me.
That's right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.